Hi everybody, it's Tim with InKind Pro. I want to give you an overview of the admin panel at InKind Pro. So it's located at admin.inkindpro.com. I'm logged in as your administrator, but here's how you control that and change the password or log out. Over here is our menu. What you're looking at is the dashboard, which I'll get back to in just a moment. And I want to go through the what's going on with here. So the agency, the grants, and the centers are about administrating your program. Donors are the donors, just like we added donors in the app. You can add donors here. Option choice, category, subcategory, and products and services. These are all the items that help you with building out your app. These are the actual products and services and the navigation. Reports is our reports interface. Users are the users that are in the app. So on the tablet app, and then void transactions and cities. Let me start with the low-hanging fruit with the cities. So when we were building this out, we didn't want to add a huge database of cities to our program just to waste space. And so we built this tool, and what'll happen is sometimes you'll get a weird thing and the city won't be added. But this is how it's done. You just go over here, you pick your state, you add your city. If the city's already in there, you'll get a little pop-up. They'll say, oh, this city's already added. But that's all that cities does. Okay, so let's go back over here to admin. Admin's the admin users to this site. So it's really simple to go in here and to add them. The username is the username for the tablet app, and then the email address is what they use to log in to the admin site. And then this is where you would give people permissions to do the various things that they do. So that's in admin. When you're done, you just save it. You can also mark people active and inactive. Grants and centers are basically already set up. You add grants here, you add centers here. If you are continuing to grow, it's pretty simple to add either grants or centers. Donors are just that. The donors that we have set up in the system kind of gives you a little breakdown of what they've donated so far. You can do things like purge donors after the end of the program year. You can export them into a CSV file or an Excel spreadsheet. You can add them right here. I will show you this. If I click edit and I scroll down here to the bottom, this is the QR code that the donor would use to log into the donor app. So I can click the print button up here. It'll come with the instructions on how to do this, and I can print those out for my donors. And that's the QR code. Of course, as I showed in the example, I can just pull it up in my on my app and just use my camera to take a picture of the QR code right from here. But either way, you can print it out. Okay, so let's go and focus on these, the categories, subcategories, and products. So we don't really have a search engine in the InKind Pro app. And so what we need to do is have a way to kind of drill down into what you're donating and stuff. And so the categories and the subcategories are a way really just kind of lead people to where you want them to go. These are really simple. They both work the same way. You can go over here and you can do the image. And so the image, you can take just any kind of picture of anything. And, I think I told somebody that I usually just go on Google and grab a picture. But what you can do is you can scroll this down and crop. And really what you want to do is make sure that you get the full frame. What's going to happen is they'll cut off the corners, to make a rounded on the icon. And if you try to get it this is about what you want it to do is crop it right here. You crop it, and then you click save, and you're done. And the subcategories work that same way. Under subcategories, what you do is you you're telling it where you want to lie underneath the category. But it's the same way that we gathered the image. That all works the same way. So that leaves us now with option choices and products and services. So let's start with products and services. Products and services can go to multiple grants. So if I have one item, maybe it's mileage or whatever, it applies to all grants, it's going to be the same value across the board. You can apply it to all 3 grants. And that means that this product will go on anybody that's logged in or has permissions to that grant. And then here, this is where I pick the category and the subcategory, and that's for navigation. I'm going to hold off on the option choices right now until I get back to that stuff, but this is where those would go. And it says hold Control or Shift if you want to add multiple choices on there. Okay, so here's the product type. For the most part, it's going to be generic. We are working on a product called Time Product, which will allow your donors to come in and log their time. The name and the product price. So the product price is going to be whatever price that you value this by the increment that you will increase. Does that make sense? So what you guys, I think, do is y'all do $1.27 or something like that per minute. But then you want to do this in blocks of 5 or 10 minutes. So what this will do is that on the plus minus that you saw on the app, when I click the plus, it's going to go up 10 increments. So you don't have a choice to do 8 increments or whatever, or 1 increment. So it does it in blocks of 10, and then it's going to multiply that times that $1.27. So 1 increment is going to be $12.70. That's the increment quantity. But for the most part, if it's going to be the value of something, it's going to be $13 or whatever, the value of it times 1 increment. And so you just pop that up however you want to do that. In many instances, sales tax is applicable. If there's a sales tax that's applied to an item, you can add that. It's a donation. The allow the price override is kind of tricky. So anything that is a default price in here, you can leave as it is, and you can lock that down. So that means that when you're in the app, you can't change it, but you can leave it open. And when you leave it open, that means that they can go in there and there's an extra field that comes up there, and they can change the price within the app. Now, if there's an item that just doesn't have a price at all, maybe it's somebody donated materials to this stuff. So what you want to do is put a 0 price, and then make sure that you allow this price override. And then every time that someone donates something that does not have this, it'll automatically make them put the price of the value in there. The description is so that when people are donating, that they understand what you're donating. It's kind of the description of what it is. And again, the product image. Product image works just the way it works on all the rest of them. It can go in there and crop. So this is the products category. And of course, if there's any question about this, never hesitate to call or to email. Now, lastly, I want to take you back up to that option choices. So in the app, you saw that there was an option for everything that's donated. You want to put a description, or you really wanted to explain what's going on there. And instead of me using my voice or having to type that in every time, I can predefine these. So on certain items that are going to really be very, very much the same every time, you can go ahead and you can make these option choices. And then in the app, when you go down to that description, it's just going to be an arrow, and you just pick which choice you want. And that's where you put these. It works the same way as anything other, just about everything else. You'll go and you'll see a whole list of option choices. You can delete, you can sort them, you can do however you want to do it. And that's option choices. Now, for the next stage, I want to talk about reports and the dashboard, because they kind of go hand in hand. The dashboard is really just an easy way to kind of see what's going on during a set amount of time, and it's really for your program staff just to get some indication of where they're working. If you click the funnel, You can do things like define the center. You can select the date range, and you can apply this to this. And you can see for each one of these where you are lying with your goals or whatever. So you can pick. This will allow you to do the multiple select or the grants or whatever you want to do this, and the date range. And so you can go and it will change that. The best donor, the best users, the centers needing attention. These will all just to give you a little bit of advice. And then down here is the last transactions that we went through. And you can see this is 10 per page. You can do up to 50 per page. If I click over here, you remember in the app where I showed you that transaction number? This is the actual transaction that occurred. And so I can go through here. There's that transaction ID. There's the date. I showed where we can change that date in the app or in the donor app. We can also do it right here. So I can change the date of the occurrence right here. I can click the update. Here's what was donated, the categories and subcategories, the total price. There's that digital signature. I can come over here and I can print that if someone wanted a copy of it later on, or if your auditor wanted to see it. I told you that we can attach the images on this, and so there's that image to that, and it shows up as an attachment. If there's no attachment, you won't see anything there attached to it. And that's the transaction details. So now let's go down to the reports. So reports are built really for your fiscal folks, or for folks that really need to fine-tune this. And so a report is basically taking our database and filtering it out. So I can filter it by users, I can filter it by grants, I can filter it by centers and donors and categories and subcategories, and so on and so on. And I can build reports like that. But for the main part, the easiest way to run a report is one that includes everything. So I've built a report here. It says all transactions. So if I go over here and I run a report and I select it, all transactions, and I select the start date or the end date, oops, I can go and I can now export this to Excel. So I can export all the data that's in here to an Excel spreadsheet. From there, I can sort, I can group, I can make subtotals. I can do it's a lot easier to do that kind of stuff in Excel than to try to do it in kind of a generic reporting environment. And so that's why we build it that way. You can do you can also print to a CSV, and of course you can print it. And again, this has that transaction number here. That's a link to the actual transaction, and I can go there. So the last thing I want to show you is that we didn't, to get around the concerns of the auditor and concerns of the Office of Head Start, the PMFO, we didn't make it so you could edit individual transactions. So when a transaction is created, you can change the date. We understood the logic of that. If something really happened in August and you're not reporting it till September, then you need to be able to change the date. And we had to do that in our own program. But the other stuff, deleting an individual item or editing an individual item, we decided we just couldn't do. And so one of the things that we can do is we can delete that. And so our auditors wanted to reason out why we did this, so we just do this. We create the reasons, and then you delete it. And so if it needs to be redone, it really needs to be redone. If you find out that it was probably okay, you can go over here to avoided transactions, and you can actually restore it. So if I go over here and I click restore, I can restore it. Okay, well that's the admin section of InCon Pro. I'm sorry if I'm getting a little hoarse. This is actually the third time I've done this video with some technical problems. So if you have any questions, pick up the phone and call us. You can always call or email toppenheim@inconpro.com, which is me. You can go to info@inconpro.com if you have other concerns, and our number is on the website if you need to call. Thank you all so much. Take care.